She laughed at the greasy roadside mechanic. Then a Navy helicopter landed for him. The laugh cut through the hot roadside air like a slap, sharp and careless, as oil-stained hands tightened around a wrench and a man kept his eyes on the broken engine instead of the people watching him. Dust clung to his boots, grease darkened his shirt, and the sun burned down on a life that already felt heavy enough. To her, he was just another greasy roadside mechanic, bent over a dying car on a forgotten stretch of highway. To him, this moment was just one more reminder of how far he had fallen from a life he once lived with honor, sacrifice, and silence. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing good when no one is watching, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel The Thread of Kindness. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He had not always worked on the side of the road for cash handed over without eye contact. There was a time when his back was straight, his uniform pressed, and his purpose clear. Years ago, he had served in the Navy, flying into danger when the world was asleep, rescuing people he would never meet again, carrying fear and courage in equal measure. But life after service did not come with medals or applause. It came with sleepless nights, a marriage that cracked under unspoken trauma, and a system that moved too fast for a man who needed time to heal. When his wife left and took their young daughter with her, the ground gave way beneath him. Bills stacked up, opportunities slipped through his fingers, and eventually the only honest work he could find was fixing engines with tools he bought secondhand, on roads most people sped past without noticing. That afternoon, the car belonged to a woman dressed in clean lines and sharp confidence, the kind that came from a life where problems were solved with phone calls, not scraped knuckles. Her engine had died suddenly, and she was furious about the inconvenience. When she saw him approach, grease on his face and sweat on his brow, her frustration turned into something colder. She laughed, loud enough for others to hear, dismissing him with a look that said she had already decided his worth. He felt it, the old familiar sting, but he swallowed it like he had swallowed so many things before. He knelt, opened the hood, and got to work. As he worked, memories surfaced uninvited. The hum of helicopter blades over dark water, the weight of responsibility when lives depended on his steady hands, the sound of a child laughing before bedtime, back when his daughter still lived under the same roof. His hands shook for just a moment, not from the engine, but from the ache of remembering who he used to be. Still, he kept going. Because fixing things, even small broken things on the side of the road, was the one way he still knew how to feel useful. The woman paced, complaining on her phone, making sure everyone nearby knew how ridiculous the situation was. Each laugh landed like another reminder that dignity is fragile when your clothes are dirty and your past invisible. He finished the repair quietly, wiped his hands on a rag, and stepped back. The engine turned over smoothly, life returning to metal and wires. He nodded once, the job done, expecting little more than a quick payment and the familiar relief of being ignored again. Then the air changed. A distant thudding sound rolled across the highway, low at first, then growing louder. Dust began to lift from the ground. Heads turned upward. The sound was unmistakable to him, a rhythm etched into his bones. Helicopter blades, not just any helicopter but a Navy aircraft descending fast and deliberate. The road erupted in confusion as the massive machine circled once and landed nearby, wind and noise overwhelming everything else. Conversation stopped. Laughter died. The woman froze, phone still in her hand. From the helicopter stepped uniformed officers moving with purpose. One of them looked straight at the mechanic, eyes widening with recognition. In that instant, years of being unseen collided with a past he had never spoken about. They approached him with respect that felt almost unreal, saluting him in front of everyone. They had been searching for him. A rescue he had carried out years ago, one that saved an entire crew during a classified operation, had finally been declassified. The men he saved had never forgotten his name. They had spent years trying to find the pilot who risked everything and disappeared quietly into civilian life. The roadside became a stage he never asked for. The woman's face drained of color as she realized the man she had laughed at was someone others looked at with awe. The grease on his hands no longer told the whole story. The dust on his boots no longer defined him. In the roar of the helicopter and the stunned silence of the onlookers, his past stood up beside him, undeniable. But what moved him most was not the recognition or the apologies that followed. It was the weight lifting from his chest as someone finally saw him, not as a broken man, but as a whole one. The officers spoke of honors, of opportunities, of reconnecting him with a support system he never knew how to ask for. For the first time in years, the future did not feel like a narrow road with no exits. As the helicopter lifted off again, leaving behind swirling dust and changed hearts, the roadside fell quiet. The woman stood still, shame written across her posture, forced to confront how easily she had judged a man by the surface of his life. He did not look back at her. He packed his tools slowly, feeling something unfamiliar settle inside him. Hope. Life did not transform overnight. He still went home to a small room and woke up early to work. But calls were made. Doors opened. He was connected to veteran programs, counseling, and eventually a job that honored both his skills and his scars. Months later, he stood in a courtroom where his daughter ran into his arms, years of distance softened by patience and persistence. The road that once felt endless finally curved toward something better. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the Thread of Kindness. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us to see people more deeply. And before this video ends, we have one special request. Please comment below with the words, "Kindness sees beyond appearances." Because sometimes the people we laugh at are carrying stories of courage we could never imagine. And sometimes a dusty roadside is just the beginning of a second chance that changes everything.